make this like the Ellen show and dance around a little bit, but we can just shake hands too.
Oh, thank you.
Coffee's all
Thank
set.
you.
Perfect. All right, so Yusuf, tell us a little bit about what you do and help us understand what is a refugee. We hear so much in the news about what's going on, but you have such a unique perspective for us. So start there for us.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Really appreciate it. It's very important for people to understand just the definition of the word refugee, because that's usually what most people kind of get confused. Who's refugee and what's the status of refugee? And I think the main definition, which was we go with when we have people coming to the United States or people fleeing to Europe or other parts of the world, is that refugees are individuals who have fled their home country and because of there's a well-founded fear of persecution and that they couldn't stay in their home country, so they were forced to leave the country. And to kind of also make you guys understand more, this work, especially the refugee settlement work that I do, is very personal to me. And and I would like to share briefly, a little bit about how the process is, and also the journey of refugees and my story specifically, because I came to this country as a refugee 15 years ago from a country, East Africa, which is Somalia. And there was a civil war that took place, and as a young child, my family was forced to flee our home country. And my family, especially my dad, was in the military, and we lived close to a military base. And when the war started in Somalia, it took some time until things got worse. And my family actually stayed longer because my father was like, things will be better. This is going to take only a few months. This will take care of itself. So let's not leave until our city was attacked. And literally, the day that we had to leave our home, we had no choice but to leave. And I remember my father and the men from our family coming in the morning, and they were driving a van, and they literally came to our house and said, the city has been attacked, we have to leave. And they just lifted all of us, and they pressed us they threw us in the van, and they pressed us to the floor of the van. And the men of our family had guns of their own and sticking in the window and shooting back as we were driving the street of Mogadishu. And as a young child, this never left me, and I still have those memories and fleeing that day and making that journey. And a lot of folks don't make that journey, and usually the stories that we hear, my work right now, working with refugee resettlement in Minneapolis, most of the people that are coming to the U.S. have faced similar situations. Civil war, persecution because of they have specific beliefs, because of their religion, because of their tribe, whatnot. So when my family left in Mogadishu, we were able to go to refugee camp, where we spent several years at refugee camp. And life in refugee camp is not easy at all, and something that is unimaginable. It's really hard. But right now in the world, there are about 19.7 million refugees that are in the refugee camps, and that were forced to leave their home countries, 19.7. And imagine that those people, their hope, basically they cannot work, there's no education in the camps, and their hope is either three things could happen. First thing is they wait until their country is safe, and usually we have, historically we haven't seen that. Most of those countries has been in civil war, or they're not willing to take those folks back. So a lot of times we see refugees spend in refugee camps 15 to 20 years in the refugee camps. And we have basically other chances are like people to come to Western country, like the U.S. or Canada or United Kingdom. But looking at history as well, the number of refugees that end up going to abroad, who are able to leave their home country, right now, as I said, there's about 19.7 million refugees registered, but the United States takes about 1/2% of the world refugees. That's about 70,000 refugees every year. And U.S. is the largest country that takes refugees around the world. But imagine, like, all these people waiting, and that glimmer of hope is that eventually one day you will go back to your home country or end up going to abroad, to a Western country, or other parties, you staying there forever. Like, we have people there in refugee camps the last 26 years, especially the situation in Somalia, situation in Burma right now. There are refugees in Thailand that have been there for many, many years. So basically, when refugees then come to the United States, they have been through a lot, and they have had They had left their home country. They have been spending in refugee camps many, many years. And then eventually when they come to the United States and they have that chance, and the United States has been doing this since the World War II, we took refugees. And since the fall of Saigon, we took refugees from Vietnam, Bosnia, Sudan, Somalia, Burma right now. And then all of a sudden, most of you guys are aware of what's happening in Syria right now, that the situation is very, danger for a lot of people. And all of a sudden, most of you guys are familiar with what's happening and all the politics that's involved right now, that we're saying no to Syrian refugees. It's basically people who have been victimized and who are fleeing, and now like the United States saying like we don't want to take you because of all these reasons.
So help us understand, and I think that puts it in great context for us in terms of what's going on and what we don't hear about and how many refugees there are and all that kind of stuff. Help us understand, and you can keep telling your story of, okay, so they get that golden ticket somehow to land in the U.S., and then what? Because that's not the end of the story for them.
Exactly. So specifically my story, when we came to the United States like 15 years ago, at that time we didn't know where we were going. So we were like, okay, you're going to America, and the only thing we knew about America was just what we see on movies and that kind of stuff. So I was like, I have no idea where we're going. So
and imagine what people think of us now when they're looking around.
Exactly. So we left from Nairobi, Kenya, and we flew to Amsterdam, and then to New York City. And we stayed one night in New York City. Really nice and really beautiful. And they were like, oh, okay, I thought this was home. No, we had to go like, okay, we flew to Denver, Colorado. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to be home now. Nope. We flew from Denver to Fargo, North Dakota. I was like, oh my God, you can't get any worse than this. So we came to Fargo.
I hope we're not home. What's the next flight, right?
And the problem was like, we didn't eat all that time. I don't know if most of you guys have seen that movie, The Good Lie. It's a really great movie. You guys should see it. But the food was not familiar to us. Language, forget about it. And we just like flight after flight. And Fargo was like, oh, it's not home.
Right.
It's like, okay. Then they put us in a van, and we drove about an hour to a small Minnesota town called Pelican Rapids. It's 2 stoplights in the middle of nowhere, and that was home.
Just like what you'd seen in the movies, right?
Exactly. I was like, this is not serious, right? So, and then the next day we came September 13, and school was already on, so I went to school the next day. I was the first Somali, first black, and first Muslim in that place. And I came to 6th grade classroom. I wasn't able to speak any word of English, and I was like, sitting in the classroom. My first day experience was terrible. I was just sitting there and like looking people. It were really nice people looking back, smiling, and like, oh, I couldn't say much. And I remember it was like during lunchtime. Quickly, I'm going to tell this story. My brother and I we went outside. People were playing basketball, and like we didn't know what to do. And like we stepped on the side on the grass, and we started praying. As a Muslim person, we pray differently. We put our knees down, and we put our forehead to the ground, and we do up and down a few times, which takes about 5 minutes. And you can't talk. You're very, you're focused. So the kids saw what I was doing and what we were doing, and they came running to us. Yusuf, are you okay? Because they have no idea. They thought I was having a heart attack or something like that. And they called the teachers. They're like, everybody came, and I couldn't say anything. We finished our prayer. Our English teacher knew what was going on. She came, and she's like, oh, they were praying. And Yusuf asked me, I would have found you a private place to pray. I was like, I didn't know how to ask you that much. So That never happened. I was like, welcome to school. And my journey started. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I was able to, my English improved. I got a volunteer job with Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota in that small office in Pelican Rapids. And my journey with LSS started then as a volunteer. When I graduated from high school, there was more people coming, but I was there to help out. And then I went to North Dakota State, did my Bachelor of Science there, graduated from North Dakota State. But most of you guys were influenced our past, and I have passion to serve the communities that came as refugees. And I said, I got a job with Cargill, and I worked there for 3 months, and I hated it. Corporate world, no, this is not for me. I want to go back and help the community, because this is my history this is very personal to me. So I went back, and I worked through different levels. Now I'm a program director. I really enjoy it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, that's a great deal. A great story for you to be up at the top.
Yeah.
So. Super exciting. So I think, for me, what's been hard in all of this is it's important for me to be educated and hear stories and get to know people, but I just feel so helpless in terms of what can I do? I mean, I don't have a spare bedroom to put a refugee in or something, but what are some things that people could do to sort of be helpers with
Yep.
this, help support you. And I understand you've been getting, your phone's been ringing off the hook with all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a great question. Thank you. It has been really tough for the past few weeks for us, especially my work and the work for the refugee resettlement in the United States. This is a really critical time for us because we are on the national spotlight. All the governors, some states have said no to refugees from Syria, and also because of some concerns that they have. But at the same time, people don't know a lot of refugees, and like we really are out. I'm out a lot talking about refugee stories and telling like really these people have gone through hell, and they have been through a lot. And now if we close the doors on them and we say no, we're not going to help you, that's not. This is a humanitarian program, and the United States has been doing this. We're a nation of immigrants. We've been doing this for many, many years. And not to politicize this, I said, this is not good. So our work has been really doing outreach and going out and talking to a lot of folks. When I was in Pelican Rapids and growing up in Northwest Minnesota, a lot of people, we had zero conflict, zero issues, because we were out there telling the stories. Everybody knew what's going on, who was a refugee by name and by their story. So I really feel like a lot of folks, we need the advocacy, people to know the story, to share our stories out there and tell them the world, like, I know a refugee person, this is what they went through. And the ways to do that, our office has been we have volunteer programs. We have mentorship programs for folks who are able to have some time and they want to mentor a refugee family, to befriend them, to know what they went through. And just even simple thing is practice English with them. If you can, 1 day a week or something like that, or 1 hour a day. And the other big part we're looking at is in-kind donations, as this is very critical right now. For the families that are coming in, financially they don't receive a lot of support from the government. It's a one-time check that they receive. The rest, they have to go work, get a job. So right now, we're really focusing on people, like saying, groups of people are coming together and say, like, what do you need? Okay, as long as we can do something. We don't have time, but we can give you a gift. Okay, what's the gift? Financial gift for a family, or a gift like, give me like a deodorant, a toothbrush, and toothpaste, and soap in a box, and that is a welcome family. Instead of for me, that money that I have for that family, instead of going to Walmart or Target buying for it, now I can say, someone donate this for you. I saved $5 or $10, $20 for you. And then at least the money that they have for that first month, they can use that for their rent, because that's a very critical time. Some people say, like, I don't have much time. Here's the money. Buy it for the family. Really, last few weeks, even though we've seen a lot of negative news on the national level, the local people, they have a really great heart, and they're coming out and saying, like, Yusuf, I want to help. What can I do?
Yeah.
Advocate, tell our story, donate, mentor, volunteer. All these things are a possibility for us here in Minnesota.
So you and your families can become mentors to refugee families, or this is also a great group life thing if you feel like maybe your family can't take on a whole mentorship commitment. See if your group life group could mentor a refugee family. We also have a couple stations set up here with sheets that talk about how to make those welcome kits. So if you and your family, like, wouldn't that be a fun thing to do when the family conversation gets awkward at the Christmas gathering? Like, everybody bring some toiletry item, or each family take part of the list, and then we'll put these kits together. One other thing that we have is some cards in there, because even if you can't do anything else, today stop at one of these desks and write a card, and they'll go in those welcome kits. And it's just that personal touch, that friendly face, so that refugees, when they land, know that despite all this crazy media and whatever the governors are saying, like, there are people that are happy to have them here and welcome. So please, maybe not like during the show, but after the show, come stop by the desk, write a couple notes, take the welcome kit checklist and put some together, and then we'll make sure that Yusuf gets those out to all of our families.
Definitely.
Well, you'll be hanging around for the rest of the show, but let's give it up one more time for Yusuf for sharing his story with us.
Thank you. Thank you.